on the Income Store live video stream at 560theanswer.com.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, Election Day tomorrow. Polls open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll see. I think, like I said when we spoke to Gary McCarthy, it seems to me the race is sort of separated, not two candidates, but almost half the field, like five candidates. You think probably maybe Preckwinkle is in the pole position, and then just because the nature of this being bunched like this, I just feel like a surprise is going to happen. Well, like somebody's going to knock Daley out.
I have a feeling that we're not going to know Wednesday who made the final two.
That's possible.
I have a feeling because they have absentee ballots to count, and I have a feeling that we might not even know till Friday. That's my spidey senses. Okay.
Now I don't know. I'm sort of right now thinking like Chicago needs like a Rob Ford. Chicago style. The Chris Farley reminded me of it, the Chris Farley drop. But like somebody that's just sort of a little bit off-center, wild, but actually pursued some decent public policy, even though personally he was sort of a hot mess. May he rest in peace. Yeah. Something to shake up this city out of its doldrums and its death spiral. Now, I don't know if Gery Chico has the madcap personality for that, but why don't we find out? We're pleased to be joined again by Gery Chico, former chairman of the board of Chicago Public Schools, an attorney in the city. Gery, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you and Amy. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Staying warm, I hope.
Yeah, in studio at least. Yeah, they paid the heating bill, so that's good.
I just came from the Jefferson Park CTA station where it was 8 degrees. We spent about an hour and a half out there greeting voters. It was invigorating.
Yes, I'm sure.
Keep you on your toes.
So what's not invigorating is the data that continues to come out on Chicago. So let me give you an example because I'd like your comment on property taxation and general economic climate. Realtor.com put out a study at the end of the year where they ranked housing prices top 200 urban markets in the country. Chicago ranked 200 of 200. Behind places like Cleveland. And that obviously is a function of the highest property taxes in the nation, in the state, and it's also a function of a poor outlook for the fiscal stability of the city that's driving people from the city. So how do you address that? I mean, don't you find it remarkable Chicago, as great a city is, 200 out of 200 in Realtor.com's projections for housing prices?
Well, it's depressing, but the optimistic part is we can do something about it. We don't have to accept this. Property taxes don't have to just keep going up and up and up. And the fiscal future for our city can be brighter. I mean, for example, you can properly assess the downtown office buildings and give local neighborhoods a relief from property taxes. You can also start to take an approach to building the finances of the city that doesn't look to the pocket of the taxpayer right away. I mean, I've said, look at casinos, look at medical marijuana, things of that nature. I even proposed a Western entertainment district just outside of O'Hare Airport, which is a suburban area, which would generate revenue without taxing our citizens. You have to take this approach, and you got to get out of this lazy way of governing where you just look at these taxpayers as ATM machines. That's why you're ranked number 200.
What do you think about Gary McCarthy's idea to start annexing inner ring suburbs around Chicago?
Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. You need consensus. You can't just forcibly take somebody's property when they don't and put them into the city when they don't want to do that.
Do you remember what Daley did to Miggs? I mean, maybe you could. I don't know.
Let me say this to you. I think you're better off offering a carrot rather than a stick. And we should look at this entertainment district around O'Hare, which will generate tens of millions of dollars for our Treasury in a cooperative way with our neighbors, rather than just saying, I'm going to annex you. People aren't going to do that. It's not going to happen.
You'd want casinos there? What's in this entertainment district?
Well, you don't have to necessarily put a casino there. You would have hotels. You'd have outlet malls. You'd have restaurants. You'd have theaters and entertainment like that. It would be Rosemont West. And it's far enough from Rosemont, separated by the 8,000 acres of O'Hare Airport. It's a different market. And it'll work and it'll generate money for us, just the way the McCormick Place District does. But remember, the McCormick Place District is a tax on our residents, whereas this Western Entertainment District west of O'Hare would be a tax on suburbanites and people using that area. So I think it's a win-win for both parties. But that's the way we have to think, to keep these bricks off the back of our taxpayers. look, this is an untenable situation. We're the only major city in America losing people. We've lost 80,000 kids from our school system since when I was chairman. Unacceptable, unacceptable.
Well, that's because you have selective
part
enrollment. I mean, we're screwed. My son got straight A's, MAP test 95%, to perform poorly on the selective enrollment. Unlike the ACT and SAT, you can't retake that test. And now he's at Amundsen High School. He's doing well, but it's not a fair system. It's not.
No, I agree, and thankfully Amundsen's a good school system, but maybe we ought to have a retake, and maybe we ought to have more capacity for select enrollment. I'm looking at those things. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be forcing people out of this city by double taxation. When you can't get into a good selective enrollment school, fortunately, Amy, you chose Amundsen. A lot of people don't, and they go into their pocket for tuition. If we're lucky, they stay in the city, but they're paying double now.
Well, I would have sent my son to DePaul Prep, but we didn't have that. I'm not going to pay property taxes and then pay for tuition.
I agree. You're not alone.
I need a voucher.
We can't force people into that situation.
Well, let me. You mentioned the entertainment district, restaurants. So Chicago is it's been like the restaurant capital of the country for some time. Certainly competitive with New York, and tourism is so important. Well, the governors, in infinite wisdom, just signed a $15 minimum wage into law. New York did that, and so we got some results in from New York eateries. A survey done by the New York City Hospitality Alliance finds that 75% of respondents operating full-service restaurants reported they'll reduce employee hours this year because of the new wage increases, while 47% said they'll eliminate jobs in 2019, inducing sort of a restaurant recession, certainly on the employee side in New York City. So is that going to be helpful, what's been done at the state level and what it was being championed at the local level by all the Chicago Dem politicians? Is that going to be helpful to that scene in Chicago?
I think we're going to get through it, and it's going to be okay. Remember, this is a phase-in. This isn't $15 tomorrow. It's $15 over 4 or 5 years, which I think is acceptable. And let's face it, okay? You can't raise a family off of $20,000. It's just not possible. So, I mean, I think having a $15 an hour wage over time is the right thing to do, so we can allow people to actually get out of poverty. And I've been in support of that. And as long as it's not being done tomorrow, or you shock the industry, I think we should be able to cope with these step-ups that I've seen over the next 4 or 5 years. Let's hope we don't have the same results that New York City poll's shown.
Well, but a lot of business owners that I know said they can't pay.
The economics are the economics
an hour, and that people that have been longer, then he's got to have to raise everybody's salary, and that's another reason why they might shut down their business and move out of Illinois.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. I think, look, people want to be in the Chicago market. I mean, people aren't going to go live in another place just because their meal price went up 32 cents a meal. I don't see that happening. But look, at the end of the day, people have to be able to work and make a living that can sustain themselves. I just don't think $22,000 a year does it.
What about
when you have kids?
Yeah, I mean, okay, we can do an Econ 101 debate later, but I mean, what about, speaking of sustainability, it's the median household income in Chicago is like $68,000, and the average median compensation for public sector workers in Chicago, which is a whole lot of them, since the top 4 employers in Chicago are all government, is a multiple of that, especially when you include the guaranteed pension dollars. So what are we going to do about a city that is functionally bankrupt and all of these obligations when 80% of the budget is personnel costs? Where are you going to cut headcount?
Well, in a lot of places, I've already called for the elimination of the clerks and the treasurer's offices. I mean, if you can tell me what either of those places does that we would keep them, it's beyond me. I mean, city stickers with 120 people, it doesn't make any sense. The treasurer's office can easily be incorporated into the Department of Finance. You can have an outside auditor to make sure that the books are right. That's a place I would start. I've also said that the infrastructure trust, which is $2 million a year out of the city treasury to fund this organization that hasn't built one project. I mean, I can keep going and going and going. I mean, how about this? How about having the proper amount of manpower on the payroll so we're not running overtime and seeing police officers being paid $250,000? Doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of places to manage better, be more efficient, and bring costs down. But at the same time, let's understand this. You have to grow this tax base. You just have to grow this tax base. I'm encouraged by the projects that I see in the city. People still want to be in this city in a big way. Look at Community 78. Look at Lincoln Yards. Those are massive investments in our city. we have to keep going that route. We have to keep building this city and bring the neighborhoods into the picture.
Now, Paul Vallis says that he's the one who left CPS as CEO of CPS with a $1 billion surplus. You're claiming the same. Who's right and who's wrong?
Oh, I think it's shared credit. I mean, I've given Paul a lot of credit for what he did over there, but it wasn't just Paul. It wasn't just me. There was an awful lot of people that made that system come around. How about starting with classroom teachers? I mean, the classroom I'm happy to talk about the fiscal results there, but I also want to talk about the academic ones. We had 6 straight years of test score growth. To me, that's important, and that's what people want out of the school system. Amy, you didn't go to Amundsen looking at the financials of Amundsen. You went to Amundsen because they could do something for your child, and that's why you made that decision.
I didn't really have a choice. I mean, my choices were Lakeview and Amundsen,
backed
to
into
be
it.
honest.
Yeah, right. And the Lakeview, that's where, those Jesse Smollett entourage went. So that's dangerous.
That's right.
Yeah, right. A lot of fake
No,
assaults at
I love a lot
Lakeview.
of people who go to Lakeview High School.
Of course.
A lot of my former players go there. So.
Speaking of, since I invoked it, how would you assess the handling of the Smollett hoax, apparently, by Chicago police?
Well, I thought we obviously have a very good police department that did great detective work to get to the bottom of that. But obviously, you got to look at what happened by this perpetrator. I mean, what possesses a person to do this? I mean, because he was upset with his salary? Come on, this is outrageous.
Yeah, he only made.
We ought to.
He made $65,000, and then when the show was a hit, he made $100,000 an episode, and that wasn't enough.
An episode, correct? Not a year, not every 2 years, an episode. Here's what we need to do, in my view. Whether it's a plea bargain or it's a sentence, a condition of that sentence ought to be that Smollett does public service announcements for Chicago and what this city really meant to him for the next 4 to 5 months. We have to try to rebuild our reputation. And I was just thinking about this today. I remember all the stars and celebrities coming out to talk about how bad Chicago was when this purported incident happened. And now I just see a fraction of the tweets about this situation. I mean, look, there's got to be fairness in this thing. There's just got to be fairness. People, this city is a good city. At the essence of it, it's a good city. And to have that gentleman come here and use Chicago as the backdrop for his basically ploy to get his salary increased is just outrageous. I think the organizers of the show did the right thing by cutting him out of the last 2 episodes. And I think that as justice plays out here, you got to help us get our reputation back. There's a lot of good people in this city who took it in the chops over that one.
How about making restitution for the use of the police force?
Absolutely. That's part
and
of
then
it.
the hazmat
crew.
crew.
We had 13 detectives working on this thing. For how many days? I mean, look, when I was on 79th Street the other day, I had mothers coming up to me telling me they haven't had any justice for their own kids that were killed.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see the resources of this department used on other cases, not fake ones.
Well, that's an important point you bring up. I wanted to reference this op-ed at foxnews.com, actually. My son was shot and killed in Chicago. Where's his national media attention? My name is Carmia Tang. My only child, Jeremy Alexander Tang, murdered in Chicago September 3rd of 2017. Jeremy's murder case is among more than 700 unsolved murders in Chicago. I'm disgusted by the national media attention that Smollett case has received. Meanwhile, right now we have hundreds of mothers left with unanswered questions and unsolved cases. So what do you say to Ms. Tang?
We're going to do better. We have a horrible homicide clearance rate in this city, 17%. L.A. and New York, 80%. Why? We let our manpower go down. We let a lot of detectives retire. We never kept up with the numbers purely. And then when you look at the people that have just been promoted into the rank of detective, a lot of them are not as seasoned as the ones that retired. So we're just not getting the oomph on the solving of these cases. I mean, obviously we have a good detective force. They got to the bottom of the Smollett case pretty quickly, but we just need to focus on other things that are important in this city. That's why this gentleman's perpetration of this hoax is so egregious. I mean, we have people that really are waiting for answers on justice, and I want to get on it. We have to look. I said we had to redo the police department. We have to start with new leadership at the top. We have to institute community policing. We have to make sure our manpower levels are right, and we have to really go after these guns. I'm talking about the illegal guns, not conceal and carry permit, and get to the bottom of this problem and really drive it every day. That's what you got to do. It's got to be an obsession, and if you don't go at it that way, then you're not going to get the results you want.
He is Gery Chico, a Chicago mayoral candidate. He'll be on the ballot tomorrow. The website for more information on his candidacy, chicoformayor.com. Gery, thanks as always for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you both. Have a good day, okay?
Take care.
Thank you.